If you could step into a Christmas living room from the early 1900s, the first thing you'd notice is the silence, not emotional silence, but technological silence. No more humming lead strings, no more plastic ornaments scraping together, no more inflatable snowmen wheezing on the lawn. Just a tree, soft, fragile, and alive. The lights glow like tiny stars, but they're not bulbs, they're fire, real fire. And yet, somehow, the room feels safer than our modern, glowing displays because everything you see was made by hand, with a kind of care that doesn't exist in stores today. Welcome to Christmas before lights and plastic. Imagine a fir tree brought inside not for glamour, but for practicality. Fruit was decoration, nuts were dessert. Gingerbread wasn't just for eating, it hung on strings so children could take one each Christmas Eve. Families in the 1900s believed decorations should have purpose. A walnut wrapped in gold foil, an apple polished until it reflected candlelight, oranges studded with cloves for scent. In Germany, Scandinavia, England, and America, families gathered around tables the week before Christmas, slicing apples into rounds and drying them on low heat. Children threaded cranberries and popcorn into garlands. Everything on the tree was edible, fragrant, or symbolic. Nothing was disposable. And the photos from the era show it clearly: trees that look nothing like our Pinterest perfect cones. They're chaotic, asymmetrical, sparse branches jut out like elbows. But they don't look wrong. They look real, loved, lived in. Walk closer, and the ornaments start to whisper their secrets. The delicate paper angels you see men came from Dresden workshops, metallic paper molded into three-dimensional shapes, trumpets, ships, moons, animals, and Jews with embossed wings. Collectors today call them Dresdens. But then, children just called them pretty. Then there were spun glass ornaments, gossamer thin threads of molten glass wrapped around tiny molds. They shimmered like frost-caught mid-eyed. Some were filled with cotton or tinsel, others painted with tiny scenes so small only a child would take the time to admire them. These weren't hobby crafts, they were micro art. And the most surprising part? Families often brought these ornaments out only for special years. Some kept them wrapped in tissue for decades. If you dropped one, it shattered like a snowflake. Here is the part that always shocks people. Most homes did not have electric lights before the 1910s, and even when they did, they didn't trust them. Early bulbs overheated, wires melted, trees caught fire. The myth that electric lights were safer than candles wasn't true at first. Candles were dangerous. Yes, families usually lit them only once, on Christmas Eve, while everyone sat still and watched. Buckets of sand and water stood nearby just in case. Parents assigned candle guards, usually older siblings. But early electric lights? They were unpredictable. Filaments popped, sockets sparked, insulation burned. Which is why the moment President Grover Cleveland's White House was lit in 1895, newspapers raved about the modern miracle, but ordinary families still whispered, better keep the candles. It wasn't until mass manufactured insulated wiring in the 1920s and 30s that electric lights became the safer option. Look again at those early photos. Notice something missing? There is no more plastic. None. No more shiny molded baubles. No more synthetic garland. No more polymer snowflakes. The wood plastic barely existed in households. Even metal ornament hooks were where families used thread, cotton, or bits of ribbon. Most decorations came from wood, paper, tin, straw, lace, real greenery, fruit and nuts, glass, candle wax. And the result was a tree that didn't feel manufactured, it felt alive. It smelled like pine, clove, smoke, citrus, and ginger. Modern trees smell like the inside of a stolen bin. The difference is almost spiritual. World War II didn't invent simple Christmas decor, but it revived it. With metal shortages, trade restrictions, and families struggling, homemade decorations made a full comeback. People repurposed scrap fabric, flour and salt dough, leftover wrapping paper, magazine illustrations, cardboard from packaging. Tree decorations became symbols of resilience. A paper star was no more less meaningful than a glass ornament. In fact, it often meant more. The war forced people to rediscover a truth. Simplicity is not the absence of beauty. It is the presence of meaning. When modern audiences see authentic 1900s Christmas photos, they often shocked because the trees look like something from a folklore book instead of a holiday aisle. You see real wax candles clipped to branches with tiny metal clamps. You see uneven garlands. You see flocks of handmade ornaments, each unique, non-identical. And the families, they aren't posing beside a mountain of gifts wrapped in printed paper. Wrapping paper wasn't mass-produced until the 1910s and 20s. Instead, a few thoughtful gifts sit under the tree: a handmade doll, a carved toy train, and a pair of knitted stockings, a book printed on cheap pulp paper. The focus wasn't abundance, it was presence. The tree wasn't meant to impress visitors, it was meant to enchant children. So what was Christmas before lights and plastic? It was fragile, warm, imperfect, Human. Every object on the tree carried a story. Every ornament had fingerprints. Every candle was a promise to sit carefully, quietly, together. Those early photos remind us of something we've forgotten. Christmas used to be made, not bought. And maybe just maybe that's why it meant so much.